Good morning, beautiful people. Hope everyone's doing well. Hey, this video is going to be titled Surviving in a Competitive World. This morning, as I was checking my Instagram, I saw a great message from one of the students that I've been mentoring that he was offered a full-time job at a local police department that he's been applying to. And my shout out goes out to him, congratulating him and wishing him all the best. I also want to add a few bits of advice here and there. I think that instead of just focusing on one topic in the video, I might add some things in here that may help you succeed. So back to the original topic. Everyone is competing against you, and you're competing against everyone. I mean, that's a reality, right? When you applied for a job, there were a ton of people applying for that same job, and then you got it, and all of a sudden you're starting your career, you're starting your future. So what to do, right? And this morning, something that popped up on my little news feed was that one of the news anchor was terminated for participating in a party that they had invited some strippers to, and so he was totally drunk apparently, and he was terminated for that. And the company that he was working for was somewhat conservative. They were affiliated with Disney or owned by Disney, and so his behavior went against company policy. And I love sharing these little bits of news with you that could be turned into a teaching moment, right? You're going to be getting hired by agencies or departments or organizations that require you to follow a certain ethical behavior standard. And if you fail that standard, you will find yourself out of a job. You'll find yourself being terminated or disciplined or demoted, etc. So my advice, here's Brian's advice, how to survive in a competitive world. You got to put your phone down and start reading about what is expected from you in that organization, right? What is the department policy? What is the organization's culture? What is expected of you? If you're on probation, you have to lay low. I mean, extremely low. Like, avoid drinking, avoid going to parties, avoid posting stuff on social media. Clean up your social media, as I mentioned in previous articles. And then once you're in that organization, you also have to assess the environment. So in order to survive in a successful competitive environment, which most organizations are, you have to watch this thing here, your mouth, right? You have to be careful you don't have diarrhea of the mouth in your behavior once you get hired there. You kind of have to just sit back. If you're a new employee, you're expected to be a sponge. You're expected to listen more than you talk. You're expected to say yes sir and yes ma'am and do what you're told as long as it follows within department policy, right? And then learn the ropes early, right? I know a lot of you want to get hired and then get promoted tomorrow. It takes time to learn the job. It takes time to learn the organization and the culture and the people in that organization and the culture in that department or company, right? So you have to watch out for yourself. You have to protect your future, right? And so you get hired with a department. You obviously rent an apartment, you rent a room, you rent a house, you buy a house. All of a sudden you have obligations, you have financial obligations. There's strings attached to your job, your income. And so surviving in a competitive environment requires you to also consider those strings, right? Every time you want to mouth off to a supervisor or you want to talk back to a fellow coworker in front of a supervisor, or you want to be rude to a customer, a client, you have to consider those financial strings. Because if you lose your job, all of a sudden you find yourself losing more than just a job. You're going to be losing all of the things that are attached to that income that you had coming in from that company. If you're applying to a law enforcement organization, keep this in mind. There's a lot of type A personality people that work in a law enforcement organization. You may view them as your friends, even family friends, but I assure you they are strictly co-workers who may be more than a little bit of, more than a co-worker, also a family friend. And how do you know this? Well, if you were to lose your job, you would see how fast coworkers disappear, right? So these coworkers were only there for you when things were going well. The second the spotlight is on you, you're being investigated, you're being disciplined for something you did at work, all of a sudden, no one wants to take your calls. No one wants to talk to you. Why? Because they are your coworker. And so when you go to work, you don't share your personal life with coworkers. You don't tell them about your relationship problems, your drug problems, your financial problems, your family problems. You keep those at home with you, right? If you're getting hired in law enforcement, at the end of your shift, you hang your uniform in your locker, you put on your civilian clothes, go home and be a civilian. Go home and be a family person. Go home and be a brother, sister, son, daughter. Go home and be a wife or a husband, right? And put your job and leave your job where you left it when your shift ended. It doesn't mean you're not officer safety conscious and everything else, but trust me, do not get involved in stuff off duty. Off-duty stuff is when your department walks away from you and does not support you. Basically, you're a rogue cop who went out there and did something you weren't supposed to be doing. And by the way, this advice applies to all careers. I know that we focus on my channel in law enforcement because I worked so long in law enforcement, was surrounded by these type A personality people. But now you're one of them. You're a type A personality people. Maybe you just finished your college. Maybe you graduated from the academy. Maybe you just got hired. You have to lay low. You have to know your department policy. Again, as I said earlier, put down your cell phone, pause your social media, and start reading the department policy. Start reading your job contract. Start reading operational directives. How are you expected to handle this call? What about when somebody calls for this? What about when somebody calls for that? You need to know these things, and they have to come out of your mouth very quickly when your supervisor asks you, hey, I know you noticed you handled this type of call the other day, and are you familiar with Operational Directive 14, which describes how to respond to an alarm call at a commercial building? And hopefully you're able to say yes. Again, a lot of you were raised with just texting. A lot of you were raised with just going on Google and Googling the answers. And surviving in a competitive world requires more than that. It requires you to learn the job, to learn the policies, learn the directives, and also to be careful, as I mentioned earlier, I'm repeating myself, about what comes out of your mouth, right? You don't have to share your entire life with your coworkers. And as a matter of fact, I encourage you not to share your personal life with your coworkers. And so I'm going to be ending this video. I hope that you got something out of this. This is just food for thought. This is now that you've worked really hard and you're starting in that organization, etc. Right now the economy is getting better. People are getting vaccinated. Searches for flights are going through the roof apparently. And I'm one of those people who are going to be flying shortly because I love to travel, and I want to make sure that I live the most that I can while I'm here on this earth. And I hope you do the same thing. Travel safely, obviously. But as the economy is improving, there's more jobs, there's more opportunity. So that I hope that you do take advantage of that. I hope that you're thinking ahead instead of living in the past, as I mentioned in some of previous videos. My goal in this videos is to really improve you as a person and to bring you prosperity and provide valuable life advice that you can put to work. I hope you got something out of this video. I know you did. All right, listen, reply to this video if you enjoyed this message. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Like the message so that we can keep the momentum going. And do reach out to me via Instagram or replying to this video if you have any questions or concerns, something that you want me to cover in these videos. I want to continue providing advice as long as I can because I care about you guys and I want you guys to be successful. Thank you for listening and be safe out there.